All right, we're down at the shop today, and we're going to do a review on the Pro XP before I get too many more hours or miles on it. We're just above 50 hours, slightly more than 500 miles. So we're going to call this the 5500 review. I'm going to go over the machine front to back. Got back from Windrock a month or two ago. I really haven't done a lot with the machine, had a lot of other stuff going on. We're going to get to the review, and I'm going to go over the whole machine, everything I like, everything I dislike. Be sure to watch. All right, starting up here at the front, I've had this on my past two razors. This is a Factor 55. This is what they consider basically a closed winching system. There's no hooks or anything that can come loose once you screw everything together. This is attached unless you have a break or failure. I love this thing. One, it's very small. You don't really have a lot of maintenance to it. With hooks, generally the little catch that is on the hook will break off or bend. Especially if you're riding with just a few people, this, once you hook it up, you don't have to worry about anything coming apart. So I like that. The Warn winch, this is the first Warn ATV winch that I've ever had. And obviously these are more expensive than a lot of the competitors. I will say this winch is superior to every other winch that I've owned in a couple of ways. One, it's a lot more open. It's a lot easier to keep it clean. This got back from Windrock. I have not washed this other than spraying it off at Windrock. And just with a pressure washer, I was able to get this relatively clean. Always a good idea to spool this out and clean it. But as you can see, just the openness of the spool. It's open front, top, rear. It's a lot easier. The control mechanism that this here is super easy to actuate. And it's got a nice, you can hear that click. You definitely know whether it's in or out, which is super nice. The action on the winch itself, really smooth coming out. I do like their fair lead. It works really well. The old one that I had, it was probably not as thick as this. This has a little bit extra lip. I would say most of the standard ones, they stop about where this ridge is at here. And this little bit of extra helps on your departure angle. I've had this in some pretty gnarly places and been able to pretty much put this winch cable out anywhere, up, down, sideways, etc., and haven't had any issues. This is my first HMF style, and I went HMF all the way around the razor. And I can say I really like it. This thing's took some hits. You can see this took a little, it kind of dented the tube a little bit, but basically did a little bumping action into a rock at some point. Powder coating's done very well. This is not dirt. This is actually where I've actually rubbed up against rocks, etc. Really haven't used this a whole lot. This is good. I did use it once for basically spooling out, going to a pulley and coming back to the machine. I was a little bit worried about how this was placed, but the weld's good, and this is actually a lot stronger than I thought it would be, being bolted in there. Really happy with this bumper. It definitely has saved obviously some front end damage here on the machine. No damage to the machine, just kind of scuffed off some paint, maybe indented out a little bit there. Really happy with it. I do like the front camera. I did add that during the razor build. It is very useful, especially if you're in the machine by yourself or not with a lot of people. You can see what's in front of you. If you're going up over obstacles and kind of develop your plan. A lot of times you'll roll up on something and have a really good idea where you want to go. You'll get going and things don't go the way you plan, and you really can't back up to see what's directly in front of you, and this makes it really convenient. Lights, love these lights, the stock lights that come on the XP. I really do like that. I will say the paint and this area here has been a lot easier to keep clean than the old razor. I think a lot of it has to do with this is slightly, you can kind of see there, it's a little bit slicker material than what the old one was. It was more textured. And that goes all the way up into the dash. It's a little bit easier to keep clean. I have found like you can soap and rinse it, but you kind of got to treat the fenders and this a little differently. Requires a lot more scrubbing. You can't just spray off the gray. You can kind of spray it off and just lightly touch it and it'll clean up. This you actually got to scrub a little bit to get it clean. I'm still on the stock Carnivores, stock rims. I like the Carnivores. I'll probably go back with the Carnivores again. Keeping up on the front to back. So mine did come with the live valve suspension. I do like it. I use it frequently. Kind of gotten used now to kind of where I ride in comfort or sport mode. And then, you know, as I go up under an obstacle or something, you can kick it into firm, and actually you gain a little bit of ground clearance. And I have noticed a big difference that if I catch myself, I actually won't hit anything on the bottom of the machine. I did go with shock therapy. I'm really happy with that purchase. One thing I wanted to mention, I'll show this on the back. You can be expecting these the collars to get some wear. The spring is going. It's close tolerance. I can barely get my finger behind. And no matter how many times you take the springs off, clock them, etc., these springs are clocked. And I haven't really had a problem with the front, but the rear, you know, it does come contact with that collar. So just be expecting that. It's just part of, you know, close tolerance coil springs. If you had a little bit more room with the coil springs, you probably wouldn't have the issue. But as you can see, the live valve body that comes down, you really don't have any room to make a bigger spring to gain more clearance. All the wiring that I did worked out great. Rock lights work great. Occasionally, I kind of do have these out of the way of this, but you know, if you go through some mud or something, you'll have to come by and just rub that with your finger. The optics on these Amazon rock lights don't seem to get scratched up, so you can pretty much just rub off the dirt and gain your function back on your rock lights. The windshield, awesome. This is a flip-up windshield with gas shocks. It has several positions. Last trip, if you haven't watched that video, we had some minor flooding at Windrock and ended up running most of the time with this window actually all the way flipped. You do need to kind of be careful, but generally you can go most speeds with the window flipped all the way up without any issues. If it does catch some air, it will overcome the gas shocks and slam down. I had that happen one time, and that was mainly because I was going fast and I hit a dip, and it actually, you know, caused that window to come down and catch air and slam shut. But generally, it's not an issue. The cheap light bar has worked great. As you can see, my mounting solution worked great. That thing is super bright, hadn't given me any trouble. I've really enjoyed the aluminum roof. A lot cleaner look, a little bit easier getting the toy hauler, and the antenna over there, the puck antenna, has worked out great. I ended up with plenty of clearance in the toy hauler. Really happy about that. We've made several trips with it now, and no contact with the bed. It's got plenty of room. Interior wise, all the extra wiring, the things that I've added here have worked out really well. Just basically USB, the Warren winch control. We got rock lights and we got the LED lights. Love the ride command. I've got a lot of rides saved on this thing. It makes it really convenient for navigating, especially when you're riding later in the evening to somewhere you haven't been. I did end up getting I set up one of my buttons to look at the rear camera, and I was trying to use the ride command for the rear view. Couldn't get used to that. Finally broke down and bought a mirror. This was just one that was cheap on Amazon. It's made for this machine. Bolts to the factory locations, and it's rock solid. Really like the mirror. Inside wise, all the stock stuff I really liked. The only thing I added in here was the door bags. These were cheap Amazon. I think these are Forenza something, Forenza Fever. Probably within the first 3 days of using them, I started having problems with the zippers. I think most of the zippers don't work on these bags now. But really hadn't been a problem. If generally, you know, unzipping and zipping on the trail, to be honest with you, I don't know that I'll even do that anymore. You're in here so often, and we got, you know, frog togs, etc., stuffed in here. Kind of keeps the bag pooched out and nothing really falls out. One thing I wanted to mention, the only real issue that I ran into is, you can see this glove box won't open unless you have that open. Now, it's easy to get to. You can pop this open and open up the glove box and get about that much rise on it. Of course, it wouldn't go much further anyway, because it would hit the roll bar. Maybe I lost maybe 2 inches. But just something to keep in mind for your passenger. They just need to know that, and if they put anything in here, they're going to have to release this to get to it. The radio solution has worked out really well. You can see, basically, I have one of the Midland radios, and all the controls are on there. The radio is actually mounted underneath. Really easy to detach. It's got the self-slide, 2 little hooks. You pull the radio out, wash the machine, pop the radio back in, and you're good to go. Because they're not waterproof. They're water resistant, and pretty much that's every radio, including the ones that say that they're waterproof. If you watch my previous videos, I've had several of the other ones. This one just solves the problem entirely. This quick disconnects. I've got power pole Anderson power connectors on there, which makes it really nice. I can put any of my other radios in the RZR if I wanted to and connect it up to power. And the Midland does come with the quick disconnect slide rails, so basically you can slide the whole radio out, no issue. Just unhook the antenna. This actually worked out good. These are my windfall mounts that I had on my old RZR. The only change was I actually took the center mount out and bolted it to this tube, because it ends up being the right size. Some of these tubes, this main tube is a larger size, but these have worked out really well. Haven't had any issues with them. Back here, you can kind of see it's not too bad. A little bit of wear with this, the springs hit the collar a little bit, and that just happens. You just got so little clearance there. The spring kind of wobbles. A lot of people are like, oh, you don't have it clocked, etc. Well, I've clocked these, reclocked these. It makes no difference. It's still going to rub against this, just varying conditions depending on what this suspension's, what kind of state it's in. They do have a clock mark on them, and all of these have been clocked and reclocked and rotated several times. I still have so I'm glad I bought the spring compressor. I'll probably have it at its happy medium, and the wear's minimal, other than scratching off the Pretty Shock Therapy logo. I think it's maybe a little bit worse on the other side. The rock light here's done really well. I really haven't had a lot of issues with anything mechanical on it. Really, the oil changes are a lot easier. As you can see, you can kind of stick your hand in there now. You don't really have to come through the center. I did take that off the first time I did an oil change. The second time I did not. It just saved a lot of time. But you can get to the oil by removing these seats. And you can either take the lower panel out, or you can take both the upper and the lower and get to the whole engine. Back here, I'm pretty happy with this arrangement now. So I have the Polaris style rear compartment. I went with a Pelican with straps. This worked out really well. You basically, if it's something close that you want to get to on the cooler, you can get to it. If you need to, you can jump on the tire and reach all the way in there. That's worked out really well. Basically, I've got an air compressor stuffed in here somewhere. There it is. So you end up with a little bit extra room to throw things, stuff things. Maintenance wise, as far as belts go, this is pretty easy to get off. The really only trouble I've had is getting this air tube on and off. I've kind of figured out the trick to it is slide that one on a little, slide this one on a little, and kind of get everything lined up, and then do your final push after the cover's on. That seems to work really well. The rear suspension on this, as you can see, again, this has been to Windrock several times now, and it's not really getting beat up. The combination of the shock therapy setup and getting my full factory clearance, You know, this stuff's very high clearance, so if anything, you're probably going to hit the belly pan before you ever hit these. So that's worked out really well. The trailing arms don't get caught up as much as I thought they would. This should be a good side. I've hit both sides, but these HMF Nerf bars have really saved the day. Several times I've slid, down or up a bank. In my last, the trip before last Windrock video, we tore off one of these. I was able to find replacements for these. But these have done really well. You can see they're kind of scuffed up a little. They've hit some things. Pretty obvious there, they've got scuffed up. But all in all, these have done really well. They protected the machine. They're not all dinged up and beat up. They're easy to take back off if I need to take them back off and do something to them. So really happy with these. I really am glad that I got them because they were the only ones really that had this extended protection section. A lot of them like stop, way up here somewhere. And the issue with that is if you get on a rock or a tree, you'll get some intrusion of that into here, and you can get so much intrusion that you won't clear that tire and you can actually get hung up. But this basically kicks it off enough. You've got not even a hand width of space between this and the tire. It's going to keep you off of that obstacle. My solution, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but there's a spray bottle down in there, and I'll just kind of show you what I do. This has worked out really well. Just a spray bottle, and one of these squeegees has kept that windshield perfectly scratch free. And it's been on a lot of rides now that if it was going to scratch, it would have already done it. That's worked out really well. To spray it really well, get it really wet, and use that squeegee, and it basically makes it look, this is literally just from spraying it off at Windrock on the way back, and it's relatively clean. So that's worked out really well. Same windfall mount over here, did the same thing, just didn't put that bracket in. So we'll get in the machine here. I really do like the colors. Again, like I said, the ride command's pretty awesome. One thing I'll mention is you really want to make sure that you keep this up to date. This one I think is maybe one behind right now, but there you can see the mileage that we've got, our engine hours. I do on my machine, I'm just doing every 25 hours or so. I'm basically service the oil, and then do my regular diff changes, usually once a year. So this will be on its second diff change, and this will be the third oil change when I change the oil this time. As far as like charging wise, I stuck with a NOCO. On the Pro XPs, this is actually connected all the time to the battery. So all you really need, you don't really need to put on the NOCO adapter or anything. It's easiest just to buy this cigarette adapter, because that is designed to charge the RZR, and that's worked really well. It's been convenient. I like it because it's right in front of me, and unlike my other RZR, I had it up on the front. It was real easy to forget that. Not that it ever did any damage, because a lot of times I'll actually leave this, for several days in the toy hauler connected. And if you forget it in the toy hauler, it could actually do some damage. In the shop, it's not a real big deal. It just pulls out, and there's no big issue. This is really nice because you can see this. There's a LED that cuts on. It's right in your way. I usually drape it right over the driver's seat, so it's pretty much impossible to forget it. But all of this has worked out really well. I really like this winch control. And again, I did, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, I did mount the stock Warren connector here. And I keep the controller here. So I've got basically both options, and the Warren did come with that. It comes with the dash switch and the remote control. I have not got the Bluetooth thing. I don't know that I will get that. But that's really handy, especially if you have to get out of the machine. or you know, you're focused on driving and you got somebody else operating the winch. If it's a passenger, they can use this. If it's someone outside, you can basically hook that up and it works the same way. It has the LED, same nice touch controls. One thing on these controls is you can actually just feel with your finger which direction. So on this one, you know, it's got an inner pattern and I can feel with my finger. And here it's got like a divot with the two sides, so you know which direction you're going to be winching. And this tells you, you know, is your winch too hot, or are you going too fast, etc. And this will warn you if you're doing something wrong in your winching. I do love the steering wheel controls. It's pretty nice. You can program this button to do certain things. On mine, I've got it, you hold it for a few seconds, it goes to nav. If you just tap it once, it cuts on the reverse camera, which is really convenient. You can kind of see there. And then you hold the button, and it'll take you to nav. You tap it once, and it will go to the rear camera. So really cool feature. One thing I will say, I don't really use this, maybe I should. I don't really use this dash a lot. The tagging for North Carolina is coming up here shortly. So I've got to put turn signals and etc. on it. And I know that there's turn signals here because, let's see if they'll do it from a warm start. Yeah, there we go. So you can see the turn signals turn on. So finding how to illuminate those will be nice. But right now I haven't done that. But all in all, this has worked out really well. My wiring is done very well. Protected it all. We've got Anderson power pole connectors pretty much on everything. This is the antenna bracket. It's all done really well. But anyway, if you have any questions on this build, I did this, I don't know, quite a while ago, and this has been on a lot of trips and really haven't had to fool with it. It's pretty much just worked flawlessly. Love the machine, love the power of the machine. It has way more power than you would ever want to use, and it's super capable. And you know, it's nothing's broke on it, so that's a really good thing. I think my other razor, by this point, I was probably already replacing the center section carrier. This one has had no problems whatsoever. No noises, no vibrations, no weird things. So these are built a lot better. I know they do cost a lot more, but as far as like spending time riding versus working on it, this has just been buy, build, and drive. I've went the whole year. I'm probably going to go 2 or 3 more times this year, and then I'll, you know, go into diff fluid changes, etc. But that's all normal maintenance. I'm not going to have to do any major repairs, so I'm really happy about that. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.